Hey up, my name's Adam Castle. I'm the Web Services Manager at the RIPE NCC. I'm going to talk to you about what we do and what we've learnt, and hopefully get some feedback about our services. So I thought it would be good to start off with who we are. I think we're quite a nice bunch of people. We're quite approachable, quite friendly, so if you see us, come and tell us what you think about our website. We have a lot of different experiences and expertise. We've got a lot of Python knowledge, Django, Plone CMS, and Pyramids, and also PHP knowledge with WordPress. And we're starting to go into the marvelous world of JavaScript frameworks. So if you have any comments, then please send us an email to webmaster@ripe.net. So what do we do? Well, we look after the RIPE NCC main website, ripe.net. We also look after RIPE Labs, which Emil mentioned earlier. I'll go into a bit more detail about that. And we look after the RIPE community mailing list. Another new tool that we've just built is called the RIPE Forum, which I'll talk about a little bit more later on. And we do a lot of community work. We look after the PC submission systems, how you uploaded presentations for today's talks, a lot of the meeting websites for MENOG, ENOG, and C. And much, much more. We actually have another 20 or so apps that I haven't even mentioned. So let's talk about ripe.net. It's been online since 1992. Daniel Carambo can probably say a lot more about it than I can. If you think Google came around in 1998, it's quite an old website. It's got 11,000 pages. It's got a lot of historical data. And we did a survey in 2013, a RIPE NCC survey, and we got a lot of feedback about the website then, and I just wanted to pick up on three of the things in this talk. So one of the areas that people mentioned, and in meetings like this as well, is that they had trouble finding content. And when you have such a big website of 11,000 pages, it's kind of understandable, but we didn't help the situation. Also, one of the comments was that they wanted to show differences between documents. And I'll get into a little bit more detail about this in the future. And we wanted to increase interaction with the RIPE policy development process. So let's look at those new features. People were having trouble to find things. Well, what we did was we started to clean up the content and we redesigned the whole website. We split the 4 areas of the website before into 6 more linear areas, bringing the content up so it's easier to navigate around from what we've called the mega menu. Now, who knows about what the RIPE policy development process is in the room? Well, a few people, cool. This is going to be probably one of the worst explanations of what it is because more people will probably know better than me, but it's a multi-stakeholder approach to developing policy documents, which the RIPE NCC have to adhere to. It involves people like you can all get involved into it. It requires consensus, which has to be done on the mailing lists. And there's interaction from the RIPE working groups. Now, these policy documents are often done in draft stages and then get made into official RIPE documents. And what we did, people wanted to see the difference in the discussions and the changes in the documents. So we created a diff tool across all of our documents. And you can see there's a HTML diff here, showing the changes in the documents so that you can easily see what has changed and what affects you at a networking level. Sometimes the changes are just grammatical, maybe a comma or a full stop. So you can just look at the diff and just see one small change. But sometimes it's quite large like this. This is a policy document discussion about IPv6 prefixes. But this has also been done for the RIPE documents and the draft documents, and it's also historical. It goes back to the original ones. We haven't just applied it going forwards. Now, the RIPE Forum is a Python-based pyramid application. It's really simple, really quick, and it just sits on top of Mailman. The reason why we built it was that we wanted to have a kind of a newer interaction to Mailman, to the mailing list. And I mentioned just before how important the mailing lists are to getting consensus for our policy discussions. There wasn't any kind of tool that existed like this we couldn't find. Everything required a migration away from Mailman, which we didn't want to do. We wanted to attract a different kind of user to Mailman, to the mailing list, and not put any boundaries, because some people don't know what a mailing list is. So there was a request for a forum. We did a lot of research, and this is what we came up with. And as a developer, I normally go to conferences with live demos, so I'm going to do one now. And if it doesn't work, you can all laugh, but then I'll probably just blame the network. So here it is, this is it. There's a little test mailing list that you can play around with. Please don't play around with the other mailing lists because they're actually active discussions unless you want to get involved. You can see up in the top right-hand corner, we base everything on VIP NCC Access, which is our single sign-on solution. So you need a VIP NCC Access account to post to the mailing list, but you don't need it to actually read the mails. And as you can see here, it's just a forum view on top of a mailing list. If you're kind of a traditionalist and you like the threaded view, you can just switch this on, and let's hope it works. Yeah, that's cool. And you can see it gets all indented in the thread, and you can actually close down the threads if you want to. Also, you can do kind of, if you just want to skim over it, you can collapse the messages and open them up at your leisure and stuff like that. We've had a lot of feedback about this. A lot of people liked it. And we've seen an increase of users to the mailing list and therefore to Mailman. If you want to post, you can just quote and write a message. It's just a normal forum, to be honest. But the cool thing about it is that the previous users of Mailman, of our mailing lists, they didn't have to change anything. It just interacts with it. So yeah, if you go to this URL and you just want to have a play around, if you have any feedback about it as well, then please let me know either after this session or in the coffee break. We have about 200 glossary terms. Our community, we love our acronyms, we love our terms, and we take for granted what people think they mean. If you're new to the community or new to the VIP NCC, you might not actually know what IPv6 means. And so we created these glossary terms. There's a kind of a thin dotted line under some of the words over the website. We didn't want to make it too intrusive to people, but if you hover over them, it gives you the actual explanation like we do here for what the VIP community is. If you think that we're missing any terms, then please let us know, because we'd like to add to it, because you're the users at the end of the day. Searching the site, I'm going to talk a bit more about this in a second, but what we did was we split it into 6 sections, like I mentioned, and then we also did this little, there we go, little checkbox there. And what that meant is you could go into each section, and check it, and you would only do a query in that section, therefore getting a sixth of the content, really. And this would help you filter the content. Unfortunately, at the VIP NCC, from an SEO point of view, as search engine optimization, we use the word ripe a lot, which when you do a search for ripe something, you will probably get 11,000 pages back. This is quite an underused resource at the NCC. We have almost 100 RSS feeds available for you to use and subscribe to, and they can get quite narrow in their fields. So the simple ones are like news items, but also you can subscribe to the VIP documents RSS feed to be kept informed of any new VIP documents, service announcements, or even service announcements for the VIP database. If you go to this page here, you'll see a list of it, and we'll be adding to this page. And if there's any kind of content that you want to subscribe to or anything to be updated about, then please also let me know. So VIP Labs, Emil mentioned it a little bit before, where he mentioned about posting research from VIP Labs. It's not only just for research, it's for everyone really. You just need a VIP NCC Access account again, and you can post your thoughts or your comments or what you're working on. It's just an interactive blog, basically. we have about 40,000 editors at the moment, but only about 2,000 of them actually supply us content. So I'd like to say, if you want to have a place to post your ideas or your views about the network community or NOGs, then please post on Ripe Labs. Another important thing to point out is that it has operational statistics. It's actually the main interest of area on Ripe Labs. It shows how many LORs we have currently, and also the V6 and V4 allocations and assignments in our areas. So lessons learned. I think it's important to say, what we learned. We've had a CMS now for 6 years, and that's a content management system. And throughout that process, we've tried and tested a lot of different things, which might actually help you, even as network operators. I think it's important to point out data-driven development. So you need to start analysing what your users are doing and react to it quite quickly. This is quite a simple visualization of an analytical tool we use called PWIC. It's an open source one. And it shows us where our users are interacting with the homepage in a given point of time. But let's actually look at some figures, because I like stats. What I should point out is these are the search results over a given period of time between 2014 and yesterday. None of our users, the users' numbers didn't decrease. I should say that we get about 250,000 users a month. They're actual real users. We get 40 million a year, which are just bots and scripts and stuff like that. But out of these 250,000 users a month, back in April 2014, in that month, they did 34,000 queries. And you could see that they were doing a lot of repeat queries. So we started analysing at this point, and at this point, for 1 month, we applied the change of implementing the term whois, because we noticed in April 2014 that everyone was searching for the word whois. And they were also searching for IP addresses. And we weren't helping them out on the website. So we made the change to, if you did a whois query, we'll send you to the right database. And we started using the word whois throughout our website to help users find the content they wanted. So we reduced, in 1 month, the searches by 63%. But we didn't stop there. 10,000 searches is still too much. And so we implemented new navigation, which I mentioned before, the 6 subsections. And in the month after implementing that, we reduced the search results by 42% again. But you can't just stop there. And it's a continuous effort of improving the content, improving the metadata to improve the search. And we're always analysing. Sometimes it goes up a bit, sometimes it goes down, but we're always trying to improve it depending on what people are doing, and that's the data-driven development part. We increased the contributors and reviewers to the website. We used to have about 20 editors. Now we have up to 50. And we created a new workflow where the editors would find issues or out-of-date content, edit the content, and then it would be reviewed by our amazing communications team before going out live. We also created a lot of tools in-house to make sure that we can easily archive content so that we can keep an existing log of the content but not delete it. In fact, we have about 1,000 archive pages at the moment. And one of the things we learned is we have to develop more in an open source manner. We've always used open source software, and we submitted code upstream when we found bugs, but we didn't start from the scratch of making an open source project which we would release immediately. The day that we released the right forum, the first 10 comments were, "This is great, can I have the software?" And it was a bit disappointing that we could say, "Oh, sorry, no you can't," because we didn't develop it like that. We have changed the way we develop things. It takes a little bit longer to go open source first, but it's very important in the future, especially to get feedback and and be more collaborative in the future of our community. So I just want to talk very briefly about upcoming features. We're working on a meeting networking tool. If you've been to the right meeting, you might have used an app last time when we were in Budapest. We're building on top of an open source tool as we speak, which we'll use via NCC Access. We're also open sourcing the VIPE forum, and hopefully that will be released by the end of the year. We're going to do more user-related content, and I would like your feedback or any comments about this, maybe even over a coffee, so that you can have content that you really want on the website. So a good example of this is if you're involved in the right PDP and you're following a discussion, maybe you could follow a page and we would alert you when there's been an update to the policies. And you registered for today's meeting. We're going to update the registration tool so that it will be a lot easier for you to register in the future and hopefully just speed things up a lot quicker. So that's me. If you've got any comments about the website, about our services, then please let me know. I'm around all day, or speak to one of the colleagues. So any questions?
Thank you, Adap. Anyone? Thank you again.